today what we're going to talk about is why training for symmetry in the gym may be one of the worst mistakes that you can make. One of the biggest things that we are trying to bring into the health and fitness industry is an extreme focus on the neuroscience of movement and the neuroscience of training. And one of the things that we see constantly in gym settings around the world is that people are convinced that they need to always be working symmetrically. Meaning if I do 10 repetitions of exercise on my right side, I should do 10 repetitions on my left side. And a lot of people love barbells and other things that force their body to move bilaterally all the time. Now, we love all forms of exercise, so don't hear me saying that I don't like barbells and I don't like squats or any of that stuff, because I do. But what I need you to understand is that depending on your relative level of health, and very importantly, your relative level of asymmetry coming into training, focusing on symmetry can actually cause more problems than good. And so what we want to talk about today is a little bit of the neurology behind that and show you where things can go badly wrong for people. And then we're going to show you a couple of quick tests that you can perform on your own to figure out, hey, do I need to take a big step back and figure out, should I be training more one side of my body as opposed to both, at least for a few weeks to a month, to bring symmetry back into the picture, okay? That's why I wanted to go over this, because I see so many people continually hurting themselves by focusing on symmetry all the time. So let's go over some neurology. If you put your left hand out in front of you and you just open and close, make a fist, I want to talk through the neural pathways that are happening here, okay? When I move my left hand, that information is going to travel up the nerves of my left arm. It's going to go to my spinal cord. It's then going to ascend to what's called the cerebellum, which is the little brain at the back of the big brain on the left side. Now, when the left side cerebellum gets nice and happy and active, it activates the opposite side of the cortex, okay? So when I move my left hand, that's eventually going to cause the right side of my brain to become active. Now, why that is so important is, first of all, from a pain control perspective. Whenever I move my left hand and I activate the right side of my brain, the right side of my brain has an outflow, okay, through my brainstem that goes down the right side of my body. And whenever the right side of my brain sends signals to my right brainstem and to the right side of my body, one of its primary jobs is to keep pain from occurring. So it does pain inhibition. The second major thing it does is it controls muscle tone on this side. Now, why this is kind of important to recognize is, let's say I have a right shoulder problem, right? I have pain in my right shoulder. Well, pain in my right shoulder usually comes about, well, there's a lot of different reasons, but let's say it's because I have had lousy muscle tone, and as a result of bad muscle tone, the rhythm of the movement, the way the joints are supposed to function together is off, and so something's getting pinched as I raise my arm up, okay, or I'm doing one of these things. We'll talk about it you'll hear it called impingement. So let's say that I have impingement issues on the right side. In most cases, you go to a well-meaning therapist or doctor or trainer or whoever, and we say, hey, let's exercise. Which side? Oh, the injured side. Let's do a lot of work on that side. We'll work on your external rotators, we'll stretch it, we'll mobilize it. But I want you to go back to thinking about what I said. If I'm constantly exercising my right side that's painful, when I move it, the flow path of nerves is from my right shoulder to my right cerebellum to my left cortex, which should improve pain where? On the left side of my body. So, it's very complicated. I'm making it overly simplistic, but what we see constantly is people going into a gym, they go, oh, I have problems over here. I need to make sure that I really exercise that side to keep it strong and healthy. That's true, but you need to add the word eventually to it. Because what we may need to do is improve neural output to that side by focusing on the opposite side of the body, and now all of a sudden really cool stuff starts to happen. So that's kind of the basics of the neurology behind this. As I said, it's kind of complex. We have a lot of information available to you about it in a lot of our courses. But what I want to do right now is take one step back and just say, let's make it practical. Let's see how your body responds to loading one side and then the other, and then you can choose for yourself what you want to do in the gym today, all right? So I want you to grab a comfortable working weight of some kind, all right? Because we're going to actually test an overhead press. So you need to grab a dumbbell or a kettlebell, as long as you're not in pain, and we're going to do a little evaluation. So put the weight down in front of you, and what I want you to do is, first of all, a movement assessment. By a movement assessment, it can be a bunch of different things. I'm going to choose to use range of motion. So I'm going to look at my shoulders, all right? So I like to always do this, what I call scarecrow, where I'm going to bring my arms up, and I'm going to test my internal rotation on each shoulder. All right, and I'm going to do probably 5 or 6 reps to get an idea of how tight I feel. So right now, my right side actually is pretty tight. Left side, not so bad, but both sides actually feel tighter than normal. I've been standing in front of the camera a lot today, so it may just be that I'm camera shy. So tested internal external rotation. I also like to test abduction. All right, so I'm just thumb on top, elbow locked, trying to get an idea of how tight my shoulders feel. Again, they both feel a little tight at the top. I was doing a lot of shoulder exercise yesterday, so they're already, a little bit tight from that. Another possible thing I could do is full body rotations. All right, just getting an idea of how comfortably I can rotate and how far I can rotate. So I want you to choose a few range of motion exercises and test them. I want you to be very consistent, notice and mark how far you can move. Now what we're going to do is we're going to actually take the implement that you've chosen, we're going to do 3 repetitions of an exercise on one side, and then we're going to retest your ranges of motion. And then we're going to do the same thing on the opposite side and just see what happens. So I'm going to use a kettlebell. I'm going to just do a little kettlebell shoulder press, and it should be a lightweight for you, so something that would be like a warm-up weight. So I've got something nice and light here. I'm just going to rack the bell. I'm going to go through, and I'm just going to do 2 repetitions of the exercise. I'm going to set the bell back down, relax, go back to my scarecrow position, and see what kind of range of motion change I get. That actually was pretty good. So I'm rotating further, my shoulder is moving better, and I feel looser. Okay, so in my case, we know that left-sided work was pretty good. You need to test that for yourself. So now what we're going to do, I'm going to test right-sided work. So again, I rack the bell, nice and tall. And remember, I'm just doing 1 or 2 reps here. This gives me the opportunity to not tire myself out in the testing process. So again, give it 10 seconds or so, come back up, reassess, and there we have it. That's actually quite tight, all right? And I'm going to rotate again. Okay, everything's a little bit tighter working that right side today. Now, why this is so important to me, I have been doing neuro-based work for a very long time. I'm an athlete, I do tons of different strength training modalities, I do tons of different sports. Even for someone like me who spends all their time really focusing on brain-based fitness, things change. There are days where I figure out I just really need to focus on my left side today. Other times, depending on other stressors, I really need to focus on my right side today. And a lot of times, if I'm healthy, I'm nice and symmetric and I can do both sides. But this is such a key concept. I'm going to recommend that before every training session, take 2 or 3 of the exercises that you are planning to do and test left side versus right side. In most cases, the people that come to us, we figure out that they need from 6 to 8 weeks of primarily unilateral or single side training to create enough symmetry to get benefit, real benefit from bilateral training. And I really want you to write this down and think about it, particularly if you have nagging issues on one side of your body that have not been responsive to more traditional methods. So this is the basics of what we call unilateral versus bilateral training and the neurology behind it. One of the most important concepts that we teach in our kind of new emerging brain-based approach to fitness. So guys, thanks for sticking with me through that. I know it's a lot of neurology to throw at you in a very short period of time. So we've already talked about this idea that if you responded really well to unilateral work on one side, you need to start applying that in your workouts. The basic recommendations I make are 70 to 100% of your exercises in any given workout, stay on that unilateral side, do that for 2 weeks, and then reassess. Now, obviously, if you're getting into this, I'd say reassess every single training session, because I believe that's where the real magic lies. Now, if you've gotten interested in this, and this whole idea of brain-based approach to movement and strength training really interests you, because we hear questions about this all the time, we actually shot a product around this. It's a 90-minute, basically, webinar where I go through the neurology behind unilateral versus bilateral training, and we show you a very specific protocol that you can use to go through an entire workout to get an idea of what you or your client's going to respond best to. So if you're interested in that, you can click the link below and check it out. Otherwise, let us know how this works for you. Love to get your feedback. Thanks. today what we're going to do is we're going to look at a different attention grabber, because that one was not very good because I stumbled over my words, and so we're going to count that down one more time.